Welcome to my personal critique of my project plan. So, I basically think that the reason I did this project was as a way to advertise myself to future districts. So, I'm thinking of a context of which I sub in right now, but I have to make the project general enough that I can move it and manipulate it into a future district. So, taking into the context I'm visualizing, I think that this plan would be successful for them because there is a need for it. And there's already an interest in this thing as they already have the technology. So I don't necessarily anticipate that there's going to be a lot of backlash to a project like this in this context, but rather a lack of interest and motivation because I already know that there are three teachers, at least that I can think of off the top of my head, that are interested in mobile technology and being able to put technology into students' hands for them to create and manipulate things. So there would probably already be a core group of people that would be interesting in trying out some of these strategies. But for the rest of them, it's kind of an aging group of teachers, so they're not as technology savvy or not as willing to try new things. So I think some of the problems would be that it would just take a long time for all the teachers to get on board, which is okay in the beginning because from my understanding, they only have about 25 to 30 iPads right now. So if every single teacher in the building was to do this all at once, it would never be able to be realistic just due to the amount of technology they have. So I think starting out small is going to be good, and just with a core group of people, maybe some of the teachers in the technology committee who already show an interest in this by being on the technology committee, and then, if possible, to get more iPads into the school district, then you would be able to grow. So I think another problem with this plan might just be the fact that right now I've designed it kind of as like a one woman show because I'm not in a district. So it would be really hard to do that because there's a lot of resources and a lot of time that I've planned into each of the technology parts. And I don't necessarily think it's realistic for one person to do it all at once, especially if you have a full-time job, because just managing that website of all the things that I'm envisioning putting into it would be a lot of time in and of itself. So it's really hard to be able to think about exactly what might go wrong because I know there are gaps in this plan, and it's like that because I can't fill those gaps even with hypothetical experiences because I'm not in a district. There's just going to be gaps until I know where I am and I can learn the people, the place, and the policy. And that's why I tried to make the plan general enough where I could do that. So, in regards to the types of tools and techniques I wanted to incorporate into this plan, I wanted to definitely do a gap analysis to really showcase that need for this type of intervention and use of the iPads because it's a concrete visual, especially if it's in a graph format, and I can use the data from the survey I was planning on sending out as a way to show the gap. And it'll help to get people on board. And because this district loves data so much, they're collecting data on everything, they have data meetings, that being able to map the data onto an analysis would be a really powerful way of getting people on board if they weren't already kind of sold on the idea. In addition, I had put that I would do a SWOT on there, and I think it's just a good way to show maybe the core group of initial teachers working and the tech committee or anybody who's interested that there is a plan and that um, there are areas to work on, there are strengths, and that it's been thought about from different perspectives. And I think that's the beauty of the SWOT is that it's not just what's good about this plan. You really have to think about what's going to help us, what's not going to help us, what would potentially be a good opportunity, and what wouldn't. So being able to show that, I think, is also a really good way to get people on board. I also did kind of a mini stakeholder analysis. I didn't go full blown because I felt that most of the people in this district that I know about would already be neutral, or they would be in agreement with something like this because they're already have the technology. It's not something that they have to go out and buy. There's no money put into this. There's no resources of theirs put into it. There's no time put into it. It would be my time, and I purposely designed it to be accessible at all hours of the day and during early in the school or after school. So there's really no reason for them not to be on board in that side of it, especially if they want to get their money's worth. And that's part of my rationale for this project. So the last thing I tried to include would be the idea of using ground rules for my PD. And because I wanted to do a flipped PD and kind of incorporate that challenge the process part of the model, I think having ground rules is a good way to establish how the PD is going to run. It gives expectations for the teachers about what they should be doing, what they can expect from me, and a place where they can feel comfortable to explore, to ask questions, to voice concerns, to feel free from judgment. And I think that's really important in this kind of a situation. So even though this is like my job getting tool, I still want it to be something that I could potentially do. So as I took this hypothetical district, there's only so much I know about it. So I've taken what I know about it to make this plan, and I've also left what's available to be manipulated in my best way possible. So hopefully it will work, but I can't tell until I have more of a concrete place and a concrete context where there's people and policy that I can work around.